Welcome back to Bite Size. I'm super excited to have one of my good friends and one of my favorite people in the entire world of marketing, Jordyn, on the show. She is currently Director of Marketing at Crown Affair, previously has led marketing at brands like New Republic and Buck Mason. Jordyn, thank you so much for chatting with me. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
And I definitely bailed on saying your last name, actually. So we just spoke about that. But for everybody out there, it's Jordyn Casaus.
Beautiful. You said it perfect.
Amazing. Okay, Jordyn Casaus. Well, Jordyn, that was my quick intro of you. Tell us a bit more about who you are, what you do, and how you found yourself as Director of Marketing at Crown Affair.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the lovely intro. So exactly that. I am currently Director of Marketing at a company called Crown Affair, which is a clean hair care brand. Have been in the D2C startup space for about 6 years now. So kind of leading up to Director of Marketing and kind of just overseeing our overall marketing function on the D2C side at Crown Affair. So I say D2C because we have a huge Sephora arm now with it for about a year now. And then we have our direct side. So overseeing all of our marketing channels on the direct side. So it really led from my experience with just overall performance and the back end of things, but also on the creative side and the brand side, just as you know, being in the startup space and being DDC, you wear a lot of hats. And so I think that's been one of my biggest passions in my career is really focusing on the creative side and diving into that world and the brand side, but also really learning and diving into the performance and analytical side of marketing. And so that is how we've ended up here today. So overseeing, when I say brand, it's channels like, events, partnerships, influencer marketing, social, PR, things like that. And then on the digital side, email, SMS, paid, e-com. So just a little bit of everything. Just a little bit of everything. Thankfully, I have the most incredible team of four now. And so it's been, they're absolutely amazing. So it makes my job easy and fun. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to that note, actually, like you mentioned, there's so many channels. It's DTC, but you're also looking at retail. Like marketing is complex, right? So how do you, with everything that you have kind of under you as Director of Marketing, how do you approach setting your overall marketing goals, channel strategy? How do you think about measurement and success? Like, what's the framework? How do you have that set up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We're a team of about 15 and we have, we all work remote. So communication is key and it is so, so important. So I say that because very clear goals, very clear expectations across, our department heads. So myself and then my team is crucial. So it kind of starts, from exec and from a high level. So as high as we have to hit X in revenue this year, we're launching in Sephora, we're launching a new product. So high level, we do the annual summit every year, looking at the year ahead. We do that in about August. And so it starts there from, this is what our next year looks like. These are our top line goals, things like that. So then department heads kind of take that and we sit and strategize all the way from ideation to execution and working with our teams. So, I mean, I can give like a product launch, for example, we have a product catalog of about 15 SKUs, pretty small. Every product we say is a hero product. And so let's say we launch about 2 SKUs a year. So we take a lot of time. And so let's just kind of use a product launch, for example. So we know we're launching X product in a year. That kind of sits with our brand team. And so they kind of come up with campaign messaging, ideation, overall just campaign direction. And then that leads into marketing, so myself and then our creative team to come up with art direction while simultaneously I'm working through how are we going to sell this? What are our customers going to say? How are they going to, what's their behavior going to be like? What are our goals and metrics from every single thing you can possibly think of, from top of funnel metrics and goals to how our current customers are going to use this that have bought every single product and multiple times, and how are they going to use this in their routine? So that's kind of where it leads and where it begins. And we, build out a full 360 marketing plan. We dive into our go-to-market strategy, and this is months in the process. We work closely with our brand and creative team to kind of come up with these overall goals and direction, and then bring it all to execution. And then I one big goal for us this year. Just we're 3 years old now, and so top of funnel is huge. So in terms of success, things like customer acquisition, traffic, overall sales, things like that are so important. But then also, like I said, just really full funnel, like what worked, what didn't, and it's just a full circle. I always try to picture it as like, yes, it's new. Yes, these are success. This is successful. This is not successful. This is what our goals are. But also, how can we optimize? What can we change? And that just bleeds into another product launch. So it just depends on the initiative, but we're very, very strategic. We have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with online and offline and all the different complexities that builds in. And it gets me thinking about like brand marketing versus performance marketing. Like I remember, before starting Mint, like I used to go into these big brands and be so baffled at the fact that like you've got brand teams, performance teams, creative teams, and none of them really spoke to each other. And even within search, I remember, I won't name the brand, but a pretty big brand that everyone would know of. And it's probably not uncommon, right? But like their search team didn't talk to their shopping team, who didn't talk to the retargeting. Like just the separation is kind of crazy. So a brand like Crown Affair, where you've got Sephora going on, you even mentioned it, brand marketing versus performance marketing. How do you make sure that it all ties together? And is there an attribution model or a measurement model that you're using that, helps you understand everything holistically?
Yeah. So kind of a two-part question. First, I completely agree with you. They are hand in hand. It cannot be brand versus performance. And we've learned that the hard way. We really have. I think every brand probably goes through that. And I always call it healthy disagreements in my team, because I'm like, I think it's healthy for our brand team to sit with me. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. It's not going to perform well. And they're like, it doesn't matter. It is our brand. We have to stay true to our brand ethos and who we are. So we always call it these healthy arguments because it's good and it's healthy. But in terms of attribution, it's a marketer's favorite question, and something we all struggle with. And so I am a huge proponent. I work with a company called Solve, which kind of sits as our like external data analyst team, who's absolutely incredible. And so we work with them in terms of all of our reporting, our attribution model, and they just have scripts on our site that really measure any sort of attribution window. I think post iOS 14 and really diving into what that world brought us as marketers, we can now, we rely very less heavily on in-platform data, and we have to look at attribution models in a completely different way. And so every platform says a different model. We all know this, different attribution window. And so having a platform that you can see everything holistically is absolutely crucial. I know you partner and work a lot with Triple Whale, which I've heard amazing things about. So it's kind of just ensuring that you have a platform like that while simultaneously looking at Shopify, Google Analytics. I'm still looking at in-platform data just to see what's going on where. And so that's crucial, I think, to have one of those platforms, but also looking at everything holistically, again, taking it back and being like, okay, well, a healthy brand, we're driving a crazy amount of traffic and sales from direct and search. But what are we doing to optimize on other things that, email and SMS, where we're kind of seeing this month over month about the same, or, we're starting to see that slow trend. How can we optimize? How are we pouring into our retargeting audience on paid when we have all these retargeting channels that are free? So it's kind of like, what does this look like? And so looking at everything all together, oh my gosh, has made such a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to your point, we use Triple Whale, which is really helpful. But then also, I think like you mentioned it in like how you think through strategy. It's also understanding that okay, it might be brand marketing, but if you're not capitalizing on that and bringing people into your performance marketing, I even hate the fact that it's got different names, but understand it. It's so important, right? And especially for brands as they're getting to certain revenue thresholds, that becomes even more important, right? Because as you get bigger, your acquisition costs are potentially rising, so that kind of halo network effect of brand marketing becomes even more important.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so crucial. And I think even things like we launched a bundling landing page, which we call Build Your Ritual. And so that started with me purely making that decision based off of data and based off of wanting, what our UPT was and what our AOV was. And so why I thought that that was a really crucial aspect to increase certain things. So it really came from data and that decision. And then that fully led to, okay, brand team, here you go, have fun, go crazy. And they built it into this beautiful editorial arm and brand arm for our company. And so that's like a perfect example of how important it is to have the two work together. I could have easily just worked with my dev team, throw some copy and some imagery that we already have in Dropbox and called it a day. And it would have done well, but just, okay, we take this, they're fixing so many examples, but we take this initiative and we work with brands to fully allow them to go crazy with how they want it to come to life. And now it lives on every single channel and it's pushed so beautifully. And it's like it's a huge percentage of revenue already. And it launched, 6 months ago. So it kind of, if you can let yourself as performance marketers rely on other people in your company that and trust their expertise, it makes all the difference for sure.
I have to say Crown Affair does have some of the best aesthetics of any brand out there, which I know you're a large part a part of the reason as to why. But yeah, everything looks incredible. Everything looks incredible.
Thank you. We are very strict about, we always say that even when Mitt is like, we'll help you create ads. I'm like, as much as I want to say yes to this, we are like, every little tiny thing is so incredibly thought about. So thank you.
But I think, I think like, as long as you get the balance right of on brand, but if you want something to perform, if the expectation is that something's going to drive a direct return, like it has to reflect that, so I think it's done in the right way. But you wouldn't run a really brand driven kind of like marketing piece as a lower funnel retargeting ad potentially. Do you see what I mean? So so obviously Crown Affair, are you in Sephora? You're going to be in Sephora this year?
We are in Sephora. So we launched in Sephora last February on .com and in store. We are in about 56 stores across the US and then .com. Yeah.
I'm sure my daughter has some of your stuff because she buys everything from Sephora. In this ecosystem, and you even mentioned it, DTC, I think previously it's been seen as like a business model. So for you, how has going into Sephora changed potentially any of your digital activations? Are you running digital activations directly driving? Has that cannibalized DTC or e-commerce revenue? Like, how have you managed that?
Yeah, it makes me laugh because it is what keeps me up at night and it is everything that we do. So no, it's been a challenge, to be completely honest, but it has been a very fun challenge nonetheless. So, for a perfect example is we have 2 market meetings a year with Sephora that kind of just dictate the coming months. And so not this last market as in a few weeks ago, but the one before. So several months ago, one thing that they told us was, you guys need to really focus on a hero SKU. And, of course, our original response is we don't have a hero SKU. All of our SKUs are heroes. And so they were like, I think within the Sephora and giving us all the reasons why that's extremely crucial for success at Sephora, we took a step back and then here we are now, our leave-in conditioner, which is the most incredible product. But that is our entire focus for the year. And that is so much focus this year in terms of every single possible channel that you can think of. And so what that looks like, how that lives, how we're talking, I think another thing is brand voice, how we are relevant to the Sephora customer, someone who's walking in and out of a store or who is completely overstimulated on Sephora.com with hundreds and hundreds of brands. How do we stand out? So positioning ourselves very strategically for the Sephora consumer, but also staying true to who we are is very difficult, both on the brand side and digitally. And I think, even things like, paid marketing, driving traffic to site and seeing a decrease and obviously overall MER and overall things that, in platform ROAS, things like that we are just willingly, because for us, you have to just take a step back and think of it. The goal there is to increase overall traffic to Sephora, and that's a win for me. So if I'm seeing a decrease here and there, and I'm seeing an increase where it needs to be on the other end. That's a win. So we're learning as we're growing. I think a huge thing here is influencer marketing for us. Who we're choosing when to talk about Sephora versus direct, and what links they're including where and how. And oh my goodness, it's been so important. From PR, are we having them link in, display ads for PR things and all of our articles related to Sephora, or is it chronifer.com? And so it just, again, comes down to everything that we are aiming for and what our goals are top line. So it is more Sephora doors. It's increasing, and Sephora is such a huge focus of ours. And so we, on the performance side, is, as well as brand and just as an overall company, like, we're doing everything that we can to see both succeed. But it's important, and it's been quite the challenge, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I think and I think, like, it's really interesting, because, like I said, I think DTC was seen as like a business model, and I'm seeing more and more brands think, well, there is another world out there. And so, like, like actual retail presence and stuff like this is something you see more brands doing, right? Oh, whether it's like pop-ups or flagship store, like whatever that might be. And I think, to your point, it's if that's not managed correctly with a proper strategy of, well, what's the ultimate goal and how to think through this, you get to a point where you're not understanding what's driving what, and it could potentially cannibalize on either end. So yeah, interesting to get your take on that. So I appreciate it. What's been the highest ROI marketing strategy or tactic you've used? This could be Crown Affair, or maybe it was Buck Mason, or maybe it was you mentioned influencer marketing. Actually, I'd be really keen to get more insight on that, whether that answers the question or not. I think a lot of people, realize the potential of influencer marketing, but I mean, I talk to a lot of brands, and it's probably 50-50 of people to say, I've tried it and it absolutely doesn't work. And 50% people, I've tried it and it really works. So actually, we can come back to that question. Talk to me a bit more about how you set yourself up for success on influencer marketing.
Yeah, that's such a good question, because we hired someone to oversee this channel for us about 8 months ago now. And someone solely focused on this, and seeing the positive impact that it's had just right there is such a huge answer to why it can be successful. I will say, for influence marketing, my biggest thing here, and why companies, I think, can maybe miss it and miss the opportunity, I should say, is because they're not. You can easily pour in hundreds of thousands of dollars and send to everyone as a micro influencer nowadays, and you can do that all day long. You can seed hundreds of product, you can send to everyone, you can pour so much money into it. But I think my biggest thing here, and what we've seen the most success with, is being extremely strategic on who we are sending to. So, and I mean that is we do our entire influencer marketing in-house. And now I know that needs to change eventually as we scale, unfortunately, but right now everything is handled in-house, and we're so strategic about who we choose to send to, from both the macro, I hate using these terms, but from the macro level. So and that's measured just on followers, that's measured on engagement, that's measured just in terms of who this influencer may work with in terms of other brands, if they have a relationship with our founder Diana, things like that. And then more micro, and everything that we do is extremely strategic, and it's all thought about for oh my gosh, there's such a process, but it really is, like, again, from a product launch example, like, we are so strategic about, say we're seeding, which means sending product to 50 girls. Who we're sending to is all based on, like, say we just on our dry shampoo. Well, has this person, what type of content do they post? What do they talk about? Do they need the dry shampoo? If we send it to them, where do we think that they will get content? Do they have a bathroom? Do they usually shoot stuff outside? Will they shoot stuff? And so, and then every single brief is tailored to that specific creator. And so I know that that's tedious. I know that a lot of companies probably can't do that. And I probably will get to a point where we can't do that as granular soon, but it's made a huge difference. And not only from a content perspective and the content being beautiful, but also developing these relationships with these women that are so loyal. So they want to continue, and they'll continue posting about us, and they don't, oh, it's okay. They don't have to get paid as much because we've developed this relationship with them. And so relationship building, being extremely strategic on who you're choosing to send to and how much and why, and then also measuring that success. So affiliate links, brand ambassador programs, this is where platforms that are super helpful come into play. That is so important. But measuring success in terms of what does that actually look like? So if I'm, spending a crazy amount of money for this influencer to post for us, what is she actually going to do for us? And so, or if it's not really measurable and it's something that I'm like, it's okay, I'm actually don't really care how much revenue we make, it's more of a top of funnel brand awareness perspective. Okay, great. That marks, our box in terms of successful. So it really just depends on who and what, but I think being very smart about your approach is so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that paying real attention to the actual influencer, what does their follower look like as well? Like, is there following a community we actually want to tap into? What's their ability to create good content? I think all those things matter massively. And I think in the broader ecosystem, there's two different approaches I'm seeing to influence marketing. One is send it to as many people as you possibly can and whittle the funnel down, which if that works, and I've seen it work from other people's case studies, so I can't discount it. But I think where you've seen success, where Mint sees success, is being really specific in who, why, what for, right? In terms of the influencer type of creative, the communities, what do we want them to produce? And also, you mentioned, are we looking for revenue? Are we looking for great content, tapping into a community, but more of an awareness play? Like, that also really matters. Are we using it for ads, or are we using it for network effects and brand awareness or something like that?
Yeah, the end result content has made such a huge difference too. And you get this better than anyone on the whitelisting and Spark ad side of things and having to use certain creators strategically to be able to run ads. And so in having those conversations and negotiation, because for me, I'm like, well, am I going to spend this much more money for usage rights when I have no idea if the ads can work or not? And so it's like having those conversations, and we all know how that's probably for most brands right now, UGC is one of the top performing ad creatives. And so, it's just, our founder, actually very thankful that she's such an incredible content creator, and she is very active on, TikTok and Instagram and her socials, and her content continuously performs so well for us on the ad side. And so just leaning into what works and what doesn't, on the influencer side is so important. But we've seen a lot of success with just focusing on it in a different and strategic way. And hopefully we get to a point where we can just see to anyone and everyone. And that would be the goal, because we really is one of our main top line goals is get product in front of as many people as possible, or in the hands of as many people as possible, and then get the brand in front of as many people as possible, is what we love to say. And so it's just one of those things, you try the product and it is very hard not to love it. And so being really smart about what that looks like is so important.
Yeah, it does help when you have a amazing product, which Crown Affair definitely does. You mentioned TikTok. Are you spending on ads on TikTok? How has TikTok worked for you? What's your take on that as a channel?
Yeah, well, oh gosh, I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok.
Don't we all? Don't
I
we all?
know, we really do. We really do. I think it's interesting. I know that TikTok as a platform doesn't favor brands as much as they do, their creators. And so there's two sides: the organic side, where we are being really smart with the type of content that we're posting and when and how and what, and we're testing constantly. And then on the paid side, we are running Spark ads, and we are running top of funnel like awareness campaigns. And so it's doing great, and it's been successful. I'm not pouring in a crazy amount of money right now. I'm very slowly scaling as we're testing what works and what's not. But yeah, so we see it paid side, we see it from an organic side, and then also, like I said, our founder has a very successful channel as well. And so how are we utilizing kind of the three arms of TikTok. I think one thing companies can do, and this kind of can be risky, is just pouring in a ton of money into TikTok and just hoping for that viral anything to go live and happen. And I think, trust me, I am the first person to say, what if we see to this person, and what if we spend this much on this person to really have that potential virality lift. But I think that it's such a saturated channel right now in terms of brands, and every quote unquote, macro TikTok influencer is probably doing the same for, let's just say, Crown Affairs instance, 12 other hair care brands. And so it's just, again, being smart on who you choose and how you're spending your money and your time. But it is a very important channel. I will absolutely say that it really is. And from an omni-channel perspective, kind of going back to, I think, what's the biggest ROI question? I think approaching omni-channel very strategically is one of the biggest successes that I've seen. So being relevant and having a presence on every channel, and optimizing on what works and what doesn't, and how the channels are speaking to each other has made one of the biggest differences. For my personal career as a marketer and making those decisions, but also for Crown Affair and as our company, I was at Crown Affair when TikTok launched, and so that's what reminded me in saying that is I remember when it first happened, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. Brands are being like, I was joking about it being like a new channel, and now here I am, and it's like I say the word TikTok probably 1,000 times a day. So it just depends. But omni-channel is just one of the biggest things I've seen. Having relevance and a presence on every possible channel where you can is so crucial.
Yeah, I agree. I think it seems daunting though if you're establishing a presence. I'd say the traditional route for a brand is like, okay, we'll do something on email and SMS, then we'll test some Facebook ads, we'll probably do some Google brands, then a bit of shopping. I think one of the things that stops brands from being confident in testing channels and maybe inconsistent around their approaches is because they potentially don't have that overarching strategy of like, well, what are we trying to achieve by doing this, as a way to hold that omni-channel approach accountable to a goal. And then if you don't have that, then you don't have the right measurement in place. How do you even know if it's being successful? So I think everything you said at the beginning around, well, we're very strategic and our brand teams, and we come up with a plan and a go-to-market, that sets the stage for then being a truly omni-channel brand, because you have the strategy, so you know what you're trying to achieve and how it all ties together. Then you have the right measurement through the company you're using around measurement to then hold the strategy and execution accountable to it.
That's so true. Yeah, it really is. I remember when I started at Crown Affair, my biggest, maybe this was just with my experience, I came in and we were very, very, brand focused. And so it was a lot of, I hate this word more than anything, but is this a vibe? Is this beautiful? Is this cool? And everything felt like a blog, and it felt, super artsy, which was amazing and it was beautiful. And I was like, okay, but does all of this work? Does this not work? Is this making us money? And so I think the biggest thing is like coming in and building such a strong, well-oiled middle of funnel machine. So the things you're talking about of like email, SMS flows, win-back campaigns, triggered emails, like redoing our website completely to make it actually feel like an e-commerce website. The list goes on. And so now that is just really, set it and forget it for us from the paid side, organic side, the whole, every channel. Now it's like, okay, what are we doing to acquire new customers, and what are we doing to really establish this like very loyal following of people to continue to come back and, increase LTV and rebuy rates and things like that. And so it all goes hand in hand though, from approaching it from an omni-channel perspective, but also being really, really smart about your just full funnel approach.
Yeah, totally agree. I actually want to ask you another question around, because Crown Affair, you have such a loyal consumer base, right? I think that's one thing that you've always said Crown Affair has. How do you I guess it's like the holy grail of a lot of brands, is to have real loyal customers. So once you acquire them, they are loyalists. What do you think? How do you do that? what's the secret, or not secret, how does Crown Affair think about driving that loyalty and nurturing those customers that you have acquired? And because I think it's one of the best examples I've seen around a brand doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, it's a great question. I will start. The first thing that came to mind when you said that was have amazing product.
There you go.
Because it makes your it makes your
Yeah.
job so much easier.
It's funny how that helps, right?
It's so funny not having to like convince people that your product is really good. And so when I say the goal is to get product in people's hands, I mean that in a way that's like genuinely, I mean, our product is so incredible. It's so unique and innovative. The products are clean. The long-term results are absolutely amazing. And so that is so helpful to have that. So I'll say that is one thing. Another thing is because our product catalog is so small and we're not just, you know, how do we get this customer? It's different, right? Where you have like shampoo and conditioner, someone's buying that every couple of months. If they love it, they need to use it in their shower. From a towel or tools, so brushes, combs, our hair towel, how do we increase, you know, rebuy rates and things like this from our loyal consumers? And so this looks like product education. How are we talking to our people that have already bought these products to utilize them in a different way or to gift them to someone? Or we're not a salesy brand, we're not a discount brand, but when and if we do, should we talk about that from a gifting standpoint in terms of, hey, you know, let's send an email to towel users and say, hey, we know that you have this and that you love it. Today we're doing a 15% off, send it to your mom, you know, like little things like that to like really utilize and optimize those bottom of funnel, to like make it personal and make it unique, and to, you know, we have SMS VIP flows and like all of these different smaller things that feel maybe tedious, or, oh, you know, we already have them in the funnel, they're already rebuying the shampoo every single month. Great, you know, but actually like that's one of your most important parts of your business. And so how can you talk about your product in a different way? Like I said, education, and celebrate them for being your loyal customers. One thing we do all the time is we email them, we talk to them, we call them. You're like, hey, you're part of this VIP list, and you know, we know that you've spent X amount of money or have rebought this product X amount of times. Like, do you want to be part of this perception study? We'd actually love to ask you, for example, we're doing a hair quiz. And so the first thing that we do and we think of is, let's like ask our customers what questions they would want to be asked on a hair quiz. So we are just like utilizing that bottom of funnel, loyal, true customers to honestly make so many decisions for us as a company, which I think has made a really big difference.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. When I had Chris on the podcast, he, you know, I asked him what's the number one piece of advice he would give brands is to talk to your customers more.
Yeah,
which,
so true.
you know, it really is, right? And to pay attention to what they're saying about the brand. And if you want loyalists in your brand, it can't be a one-way conversation. It can't just be you talking at them. So I love what you said about kind of bringing them in, almost like being influencers of the brand in a way, right? Like you're asking them questions, you're soliciting feedback from them and involving them in the brand. I think that's super smart.
Yeah, it's so important. And it's honestly fun. And how else are you going to, I think, as you know, we work for the company, so one would say we're probably biased, but you know, how are our customers, and honestly, probably our loyal customers are also just as biased because they, you know, I have so many friends and family members and people who just absolutely love it. And so I'm like, I'm not going to ask you to be part of this perception study because you're just going to have a biased opinion and say it's the most amazing thing you've ever tried. But we really do have so many customers that really will give us so much time. When I say we get on like genuine like Google Hangout calls with people and we're just like, hey, we're doing anything that you can possibly think of, and really getting their feedback and talking to them from, you know, we did the city activations plan that was great in terms of what other cities have we not really like have a presence in that has maybe a Sephora door. We have great success with online sales. We're not really doing, should we do an event there? Should we do some sort of pop-up? Should we have Diana fly in? Let's call customers there and ask them what they think. So it really has become such a big part of our brand. That has, yeah, it's been fun, but also really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. switching paces a minute, what are some common mistakes you see brands making with their marketing approach? I know you quite well, so I know you live and breathe marketing, and I know Crown Affair keeps you very busy, but I know you're very plugged into this ecosystem. So yeah, what are some common mistakes you see brands making in their marketing approach? And then I guess second part to that, what advice would you give brands on, how to set themselves up for success?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's a good one. You do know me so well, and we both work way too much. But it really, I think we're all we're all in this, boat together. So I think when I say mistakes I think brands are making, probably we're making as well. I think kind of what I talked about from like a brand and creative side, like really they are hand in hand. And I think that's first and foremost, I think where a lot of brands can get wrapped up in it being different. And I know we talked a little bit about that. So I would say that's a big one. And things as little as like landing page testing, e-com optimizations, like all of these things that we know, I'm kind of speaking for myself right now, but that we know work. But really taking a step back and spending time and focus and an effort on things that that we know that are gonna move the needle. And so I think, we talked about attribution models. We talked about like getting answers to things that that we know are going to make a huge difference, and really spending time on those things, I think, is where people can make mistakes, is that we're just constantly we're constantly trying to do the next big thing, and we're constantly trying to, TikTok came about and everyone stopped what they were doing and only focused on TikTok. iOS 14 launched, everyone stopped what they were doing and completely shifted their strategies. And so I know that we can all be in the same boat, and we can all get in that place of, okay, influencer marketing is huge right now. Everyone stop what you're doing and let's pull out all of our budget here and here, pour it all into influencer marketing. We're all guilty of that. And so I think all of us, myself included, just like taking a step back and really like looking at what's working and what's not, and making very strategic and smart decisions. So I think those are mistakes with it. Like I said, we can all be making in areas of opportunity that we can lean into. I think, like we said, attribution's huge. Being really strategic in your channels, having cohesive storytelling from like a content perspective, I think is an opportunity that brands can really lean more into. I can't tell you how many times I see a brand on TikTok and a brand on Instagram, and I go to their website and I feel like I'm looking at 3 different brands. So I think that is so important. Having cohesive storytelling and content is huge. So new and innovative content, I think every brand also is looking the same right now. If you ask me, everyone is using the same photographers, has the same influencers, is all the same colors, all the same text overlay. So it's, how are you being different and innovative and fun and approachable? So I think that's a big one. And then, gosh, advice. I think just give yourself grace. Honestly, we're really all in this together. I think there are so many things that we're probably all doing wrong and things that we're all doing right. But, marketing is so much fun. It really, really is. It's really, from like a psychological standpoint, it's so fun to understand buying behavior and how customers are shopping, not just for your own brands. This is what I love so much about marketing, is it's nothing, not even just from a Crown Affair perspective, but in general, given the economy and what's going on in the world. And I just find it so interesting how, companies ebb and flow based off of what's happening in every other industry. And it's just so fun for me, and really understanding consumer behavior and what people are, where they're clicking and how, and, kind of like, just, I know that's super nerdy, but the nerdy side of it. And then what you can do to make, small changes that actually make such a huge difference is the most fun part to me. So have fun. Like I said, just give yourself grace and not think that, everything's failing because iOS 14 launched or because TikTok launched. So that's probably my best advice.
I love that. That's great advice. And I love the bit about consumer psychology. I think like, you need a balance of the two. I feel like in marketing, and that, like, there's it's art and science, right? To use that phrase. But I think like you got all this data available to you, And we've never had more. I know people will say, well, there's less data in platform, but if I look at all the data available now compared to, I mean, I'm much older than you, but when I first started getting into marketing, we have way more data now than we ever did. And I actually think that provides a level of complexity. You could get into a place where you're trying to analyze too many data points, and you spend your time trying to make data make sense versus data to support the marketing or justify your marketing activities as to what you're doing. But so much of this, you need that data in place. But so much of marketing, if you like real step back, it's like you're trying to get someone to buy something off a picture and a video, right?
Exactly.
Like that's what it all comes down to. You've got this entire ecosystem, all these channels, all these strategies, and really what you're trying to do is get attention and make someone think, I want to buy that at some point, and then get them to buy it. So that consumer psychology is such a crucial part of everything we're doing. And you kind of spoke about, everything you're doing, from how you're positioning your creative to talking to your current customers to bring them into the brand and get them to be loyalists. Like I know you, so I know you really get that side of things, but I think it's a really crucial thing for brands to think about. Really, really thinking kind of consumer centric in terms of how you're thinking about your creative and your overall marketing.
Yeah, I think I'm stealing this quote from someone and I don't know who, but it really, if you don't have customers, you have nothing. And so it really is, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it really
Truly
is.
as simple as that. If you don't have
really
customers,
is.
you do not have a brand. And so I think
100%.
it's really important. Yeah, I totally agree.
Amazing. All right. Last question, Jordyn. What are you most excited about this year for Crown Affair?
Oh, gosh. I think, to be honest, we have really big goals this year, and I am a very competitive person. And so my boss always laughs at me because she's always like, I feel like I should just start giving you these crazy goals because I very rarely don't hit them. So I'm like, what can I do that's super crazy? And let's try to hit it. And so we do have really big goals this year. And I think, we have a lot of kind of reorgs happening internally. We keep saying in all of like our internal decks and stuff, it's very funny. We keep saying we're becoming a big girl brand. And so I think honestly, that is what I'm most excited about this year from a current affair perspective and just my overall career is the challenge of hitting some pretty big goals, both on the Sephora side as well as the direct side. And it's fun. And I'm excited, we get things thrown our way all the time as marketers and a lot of change happens. And so I think I'm constantly redoing for example, this year, the 2023 plan, I think has changed like 7 times already, and it'll probably change another 40. So it's really just, being smart and really leaning into, like I said, just our big goals and what we're trying to hit. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a big challenge, but that's always my favorite part of what I do. So
I have no doubt you are very competitive, so I have no doubt you'll hit those goals.
I sure am.
Yeah. Jordyn, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Like I said, you're one of my favorite people in marketing. I know you live and breathe this world, so I think you really exciting to watch your journey at Crown Affair. Amazing brand. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way? Are you on Twitter? I don't know if are you on Twitter or anything like that? What's the best place for people to find you?
It's a good question. I am, but not as active. I would probably say, Instagram, Twitter's fine too. It's just my first name and my last name. So at
or
Jordyn
LinkedIn.
Casaus. On all my channels. Yeah.
All your channels.
It's easy.
And Crown Affair is just crownaffair.com.
Yep, crownaffair.com.
Amazing. For anybody out there looking for amazing hair care products, or if you want to peep Jordyn's marketing strategies, just go and join the Crown Affair ecosystem.
Yes, send me all your feedback.
Amazing. Jordyn, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Always. Thank you.